Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Joey Corman as we get ready for a 6-game Tuesday NBA slate. We're recording this on January 6th. It will be Tuesday, January 7th when we are playing these games. Joey, it's been a full week. How are you doing? I will lead off by saying my Seattle Seahawks won, and they get to play next week in Green Bay. This is going to be exciting.
Congrats! I got to play one of my all-time favorite players, downtown Josh McCown, and possibly his last game of all time. So
he's 40 years old.
That 40-year-old man's finally looks like he's gonna hang him up. But yeah, congratulations to your Seahawks, and you get the right to travel to Lambeau now and try to take down the Packers there in a playoff game. I don't know how that's going to work out. But,
yeah, we'll have to see. As long as the temperature's above 32. Oh, wait, was that a Brett Favre only thing, or is that a Green Bay thing? I forget what it is.
I think it's a Brett Favre thing. I'm not sure. Might be a Rodgers thing, too. I don't know. So
he was a California boy. Come on, he grew up in the Bay Area. Went to college at University of California. Go Bears! But
Brett Favre grew up in Mississippi.
Mississippi, that's a good point.
So he didn't necessarily grow up in cold weather either. So you just kind of get used to it, I guess. Right?
Apparently.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to go game by game here. A couple housekeeping items. One, we are sponsored by Yahoo Fantasy Sports, so we will talk about that shortly. But I want to get it out because the time is running out. It is the Awesemo promo of the year. Promo code 2020. That's 2020 will get you 20 days of all-access Awesemo premium content for $20. That is just $1 a day, and let me tell you, it is worth that price alone to have full access to Adam, Ship My Money Shares DMs, knowing he's going to have to read your DMs, at least until he mutes you. But it's well worth it. If you already are a member of Osmo, the one thing you can do is you can also join for a full year at $200 off. That promo code is New Year. That's not New Year's, but it is New Year. So definitely check that out. We do not do promos like this very often. It will be, maybe baseball before one of these pops up again. These are two of our 3 best promotions we've ever done. The best promotions we've ever done is giving away free ones, which you can't decide when that's going to happen. All right, Joey, let's look at our first game here. We have Portland at Toronto. That means I will be playing the Fred Van Elite contest. Problem is, Fred Van Elite is doubtful. He is dealing with, I can't even think of his injury. I think it's a calf. He might have even been ruled out. If he is ruled out, I will play his direct backup in that contest. More details on my Twitter page. What do you like here from Portland? We've got
who is his direct backup? Terrence Davis?
It kind of depends on who starts. One time I had to play Terrence Davis, and then the other time it was Norman Powell, but there is no Norman Powell. So
I think Terrence Davis is the only option left.
Yeah,
it's either him or Malcolm Miller.
I could be in serious trouble here, but in any event, talk to me here. What do you like amongst our options? And I'm just going to go confirm that he is indeed
out. He's out. I got him out. Yeah, and I feel like every time we do this podcast, Fred Van Elite is out. Yeah. So maybe we just got to pick days and why Toronto's not playing, because I don't want you to have to suffer through a Fred Van Elite list night. Because I know you like him a lot.
I do, and it's been great that he's been a good player, but these are the nights people live for when they have a chance to make fun of me. So looking at this, I do like Lowry. I've got Yahoo pricing up. He's at 39, it looks like. So he's relatively solid in any format going against the guards of Portland. I think Portland coming back on the other side with their backcourt is nice. Van Vliet is an annoying as hell defender. They've run out of so many players here. It's tough for them to have. I mean, you've got Lowry, Ibaka, OG Anunoby, and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson are all decent defenders, but they don't seem to want to play Rondae Hollis-Jefferson at all. I mean, he's getting like 15, 20 minutes a game. It's just, it's insane. But what do you like here from our first game?
Yeah, I mean, eyes are going to jump to Lowry immediately. His usage this season without Siakam and Van Vliet heads all the way up to 30. So it's a 23 on the season. So he gets a bump of 7 there. Lowry's going to be, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him most likely. This is going to be a hot game for me because we got Obviously, all the injuries on Toronto, and Van Vliet now out for Toronto. And then we have McCollum is questionable. He sat out last game, and Damian Lillard went bonkers there. So Terrence Davis is going to be an option for Toronto. He's probably going to get the start. His price is a little elevated on DraftKings at $4,900. So he's not too great of a per minute player, but the minutes probably will be there. A name I'm keeping an eye on, though, for Toronto, because he may get some minutes, is Matt Thomas, who is apparently a real person. He is coming back from injury. He was getting some minutes when Van Vliet was out previously. I'm going to pull up his game log here. But if he's active, he's 3,000 on DraftKings, the bare minimum. And if he sees decent minutes, he had earlier this season, he was playing 16, 15 minutes, but that was also when Powell was there. That was when Gasol and Siakam and all those guys were there. So if he sees minutes up into 20 plus at 3,000, he can drop 20, 23 points. So he's a name to keep an eye on if you really want to be contrarian. Obviously, if you're playing in a cash game, you're going to want to go with Lowry. And then on the other side, if McCollum's out, Lillard's going to be a lock and load. On DraftKings, he's 8,900, so he's still not too pricey there. And then Anthony Simons is another guy who really had a good game without McCollum, and he did not get the start. Gary Trent Jr. actually got the start, but Simons got the start after halftime, so he must Terry Stotts must like what he saw better from Simons. So that's what I'm looking at for this Portland-Toronto game. How about you?
And that was an interesting situation because that was when Eddie and I were on air Sunday night. We didn't know until later in the show we were doing that Toronto would be starting Gary Trent Jr. And he had said the whole time, I want whoever's coming off the bench because they'll get more and better usage. Which so most of us that were on the show, being me, who can play and watching, went with Simons. So that was a good move. I don't know how I feel, and we do have Fast Eddie on Tuesday. He'll be doing live before lock, so that'll be a good question to ask him if the event that CJ McCollum is still under the weather, and if it's Simons that ends up in there, that'll be an interesting one because we've seen back and forth. Like the Wizards are a good example. They've got we've seen good games from Jordan McRae off the bench and from Troy Brown off the bench, but whichever one of them has tended to start has not done quite as well. It doesn't mean they're doing poorly. I mean, tonight, McRae's actually doing pretty well off the or as the starter, and Brown's actually doing decent off the bench. But it's one of those where you need to remember starting doesn't guarantee good production. Starting probably guarantees minutes for these guys, but it also puts them with at least approximately half of their rotational minutes with the other starters, and if they're well down the pecking order, that's a problem. So if you have someone that, and we used to watch this all the time with Kelly Oubre Jr. when his first 2 years with the Wizards. If he'd make it into the starting lineup because someone was hurt, he wouldn't do anything because he wouldn't shoot. He'd be like, well, shit, I got all these veterans around me. Why am I going to shoot? And then he goes into DGAF mode when he's on the second unit, going for dunks from the foul line and idiotic things like that. But it was like he was two different players, depending on what his role was. So that's just one thing you want to be cognizant of as a DFS gamer, that starting in basketball isn't, the end all be all. It can be good or bad. Unlike with baseball, where you want your guy to start, otherwise it's a pinch hitter. I mean, that's an extreme example, but it's something to think about there. So we know the drill here. There's a tiny chance that Norman Powell is back. It sounds like he will probably be back before the weekend, but now they're being cagey with his return days. And as we saw with Kyle Lowry, goes from imminent to we're going to check on him in a month or two, and he may still need surgery. I don't know who to trust anymore with these things. So just keep an eye out on that one. Moving on to our next game here. Oh, I should say we don't have a projected total for that one because there's still people up in the air. Our next one.
I want to hit on something you mentioned. I mean, you mentioned Bray. And a perfect example of that for Portland is Kent Bazemore, because ever since he's been starting, he hasn't done anything. He plays 34 minutes and will get 18 points even without McCollum. So, and he was playing up some big games off the bench earlier in the season. So that's just kind of an example of maybe people are returning towards Bazemore, but he just hasn't produced. So. Yeah,
Adam claims that when he starts, he just stands in the corner and shoots threes because they have all the other guys that do
Tony Snell strategy.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, on to the next one here. We've got Detroit at Cleveland. This should be a fun one if your name is Andre Drummond. I have no idea who's going to guard him for Cleveland. There will be some people that try. Tristan Thompson and he have had some spirited battles, but come on, we're really going to buy into that. You've got Detroit favored by 3 on the road here. Cleveland in their last game did not have Tristan Thompson. I think he was out with the cold. They had Kevin Love. It was a back-to-back, and he was, I don't know, I guess he was feeling a little pissy after the night.
He was in a timeout. He was in a timeout.
Considering he got his big checks, and now he says, I'm not sure I like this team, so you need to probably need to have me move along. It's like, that's not helping your trade value, which the team will move on from you because they want some assets. But regardless, both of those guys should be back. Make this a little better game, a little closer game. So I think the key components would be that duo. You've got Derrick Rose, who is someone that has been having a great moment off the bench this season. You've got Drummond. I'm not really a fan of Chris Brown. Wrong guy.
The singer. I would probably take the singer over.
Christian Wood. I don't know where I came up. Oh, Brown, because Bruce Brown Jr. When I get tired, I start combining people into one player, and it's not working. You missed the show where I was combining. Kawhi George or something. I did something with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, it was not my finest moment. But
they rarely ever play together, so you might as well combine them. Right?
That is true. Yeah. But from the backcourt for Cleveland, maybe we can find a little bit of value here. You had Dante Exum with a career game, raining down the threes and then not closing out. So I really don't know what to do with the Cleveland side of things. Detroit, I do feel confident in. Drummond, 9,700 on DK, 10-3 on FanDuel, 46 on Yahoo, so I think that could keep his popularity suppressed. Derrick Rose is 64, 61, and 22 respectively. I really like that $22 price tag for him, and coming off the bench is just fine. He's only started 1 game this year, and he's been having a nice resurgent per minute season. He wants to play more minutes. They've said, we want to keep you healthy. You're going to play 26 to 28 this season, but we'll have to see. What do you like here? And then this weekend you had a little bit of Sekou Diom.
Sekou Doumbouya. Sekou Jambalaya.
Yes. But his price ticked down a little bit on DK. 46 and 46 on FanDuel and DraftKings. I actually think this is a decent matchup for him. He's someone who's put up some intriguing numbers, and I like him better than I do Chris Wood. What do you want to do with this game?
Yeah, Drummond's going to be an obvious target. Without Griffin, he's basically a stud. He's been putting up big numbers all season. If you look at just the amount of touches he gets without Griffin in the lineup is trending above 60 to 65. So he usually puts up big games when he's getting a lot of touches down there. I do agree with Doumbouya. He's got now 30 minutes in the starting lineup in 2 straight games. He obviously had a real tough matchup against the Lakers, but he really, went off the game before. So Cleveland presents a great matchup for him, and I'll definitely consider him in some of my lineups. Cleveland, if Love is back and Love and Thompson are back, I'm retired from Colin Sexton. I don't do him anymore. He's just not a very good basketball player. There's no way around it. Exum, at this point, the last game he was minus 30. Or something like that, something ridiculous. They went on a 34-4 run to come back into the game. He comes back into the game, and then they go on a 17-2 run. The Timberwolves did. So Sexton just isn't a very good basketball player. Cleveland made a bad draft pick. So he hasn't been a very good. He's been an inconsistent DraftKings performer. So I won't be looking at him at all. Derrick Rose has been phenomenal. Is this a revenge game for Derrick Rose? Former Cav, right? Briefly, wasn't he a former Cav? Really brief.
Cavs, he had a little stopping point at I think it was 2 seasons ago. Yeah. I don't remember if he actually played, but I had Utah in my mind. But I don't think he played for Utah.
I don't think he played for Utah either. He played for Cleveland. Yeah, he did with LeBron. 2017, 2018. Yeah. So revenge game for Derrick, maybe. No, he's been great. From being from Chicago, it's just great to see Derrick Rose play.
He played 16 games, started 7. I literally did not remember that. And then that same year is when he went from there to Minnesota, where he played 9 games. Now, he only played 25 games that year. He played 51 last year. He's played 31 this year, so he's on track to at least get up to, let's see, his best year in recent history was 66 games in 2015 and 16 with Chicago. Mm-hmm. God, this guy's just been nothing but injuries. So first year he played 81. That was when he got Rookie of the Year. Started 80 games. Next year he played 78, started them all. The next year 81. Then he had the knee injury, 39 games, 10 games, 51, 66, 64 with New York, 16 with Cleveland, and 9, as I mentioned, with Minnesota. So 25 that year, 51 last year, 31 this year. Yikes.
Yeah.
That's the only proper word for it.
He's been, I mean, he's the Penny Hardaway of my generation, at least, because he would have been a surefire Hall of Famer had he, that devastating. I remember where I was when he tore his ACL. I was at the White Sox game that day against the Philadelphia 76ers in game 1, and he goes down. So he's a little pricey for me on DraftKings. I don't think I'll be looking at him as like a core option. This game isn't all that appealing. Do they have the over-under out for this game yet? It's 215. So that's of the 4 over-unders that are out of the 6. That's the lowest total on the board. This is not going to be too appealing of a game, but Drummond and Doumbia will be my only 2 serious considerations from this game.
All right. And again, we've got a few moving parts as we continue through 12 teams in the player pool. So we've got stuff that we'll keep an eye on. Moving on, we've got OKC at Brooklyn. This is a back-to-back for both teams, I believe.
Both teams, yes.
Yep, both teams are on a back-to-back. So Karis LeVert came back from his thumb injury. He sat out on Monday night. He should be good to go on Tuesday. Played 15 or 16 minutes in that first game. Even though it was, his conditioning, etc., should be there. It wouldn't surprise me with the variety of other maladies that he's had if they, sort of ease him back in, the 16, 24, 20, 24-minute kind of increments over his games just to get him back into game shape. Spencer Dinwiddie, 7,600 on DraftKings. That is a really nice price point. Brooklyn is going to need him to continue doing what he has been doing. OKC, not the easiest of matchups. They just got a bunch of solid defenders on their team. They play a more deliberate style than what we've seen in the Russell Westbrook days. And frankly, Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are solid defenders, even though Paul's not as good as he once was. Steven Adams is still well above average, so not always the friendliest of matchups. On the other side here, going against, we like to look at Steven Adams, though it is a back-to-back. He's still only 28, and looks more healthy than he has at various points this season, but gets a good matchup going against Jared Allen. Not the best going against DeAndre Drummond, but we'll have to see what they do with that. This one feels a little bit like a puzzle. Nothing exciting, and we do have a couple games that we're going to like a lot more that we're getting to, but anything jumping out for you here?
It's real tough with both teams coming off the back-to-back. I know Adams is kind of appealing at that spot, especially because Brooklyn lets up quite a few points to centers, but Adams was having a big game tonight. I don't know if this is me or a lot of people, but I don't like to play guys off back-to-backs who had a good game the first game. I don't know. It's just something I have no statistics to back it up, but I just don't like to do it. So, yeah. I mean, sometimes if there's a lot of injuries and they're playing and there's just too much opportunity, then I will do it. But if there isn't and they just had a good game, I'll pass on it. So Steven Adams won't be an option for me. I don't recommend taking my just superstitious, not based on anything advice, but Steven Adams won't be an option for me.
Now looking at him, so here's an interesting one. So he's done 4 back-to-backs so far this season. Yeah. So counting all of his games, all 32 of them, he's got averaging 28 minutes, 11.5 points. We'll call it 10 rebounds. On back-to-backs, he actually plays about the same 28 minutes, but his scoring goes down by 3, so his 8. His rebounding goes up by 1, so that gets to 11. So there's really not a ton of difference there. But I agree with you. I don't always, depending on what they did the night before, it's just one of those little minor things that go on the negative side of the ledger. Correct. It's not going to sway me, but if you get 3 or 4 of those, on that other side, like played heavy minutes, it's a 3 and 4, it's a fill in the blank. You're starting to be like, all right, well, they're in the player pool, but I would like to come in under what the field is doing if you're doing mass multi-entry. And if you're doing, hand building or just doing 2 or 3 lineups, that'd probably be enough for me not to play them from that standpoint. Does it preclude them from having a bad game? No, it does not. And there's been a ton of things. Even our own Josh Engelman went and looked. He said in his super nerdy days, I don't know what he would call himself now, but he went and ran some analyses on people that were on back-to-backs, and essentially there was no actionable information that came out of it. Mm-hmm. There were just as many guys that did better, that did worse. So it was one that you would inherently think doing, 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, and if they're all on the road, if it was an overtime the night before and all that, you could start inferring it. But just because someone was on a back-to-back did not have any bearing on what was happening. So it was hard to contend. You would have needed to contextualize it even further, and at that point, now you're closing your data point, your sample size so small. Was it a travel game? Where were they? Were they on the road? Was one of the games in Utah or in Denver at altitude, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? It would just make it hard, but neither here nor there. But I get there a little tick of bias against it. I'd be fine.
Yeah, it's kind of like the doubleheader thing, like bet against the team that won the first game of the doubleheader. So I know people do that. The only guy who stands out for me, I like Gallinari on OKC. He's got a 5 times value rate on DraftKings of 64%. So he's priced at 5,800, which is just about his lowest price of the season if I'm looking. Yeah. So he's been under 6,000 twice this. I don't know what his price was tonight off the top of my head, but he's been priced under 6,000 twice. He went off for 41.5 and 35. So I don't know, something to look at there. Gallinari would be my first option on OKC. And on Brooklyn, with LeVert coming back and taking some minutes away from guys like Prince and Joe Harris and Garrett Temple, it's tough to buy any of them. Dinwiddie, I agree with you there. In DraftKings at 7,600, it's a great value. And he would be the primary target on the Brooklyn side.
All right. I wanted to look here at our next game. So we've got Minnesota at Memphis. Minnesota still dealing with a bunch of people. So we don't know what's going on with Karl Anthony Towns. We know that Wiggins is back from his illness. We believe that Jeff Teague should be good to go after missing several games. He played on Sunday. So all of a sudden you've got some people that are priced up a little bit higher than what we would like and or losing minutes. So the more dynamic pricing site like DK knocks some of these guys back down. But in all honesty is, Keelan Martin, Josh Okogie, Kyle Anderson's on the other team, etc. Are those guys going to get more than 15 minutes? Shabazz Napier, 6,100 on DK, still adequate, especially in this matchup against Memphis. But he's someone that is not going to get that extra 3 or 4 minutes with Teague back in the mix. If Towns comes back, that absolutely torpedoes Gorgui Dieng. If Towns is not playing and still dealing with this knee injury, Gorgui Dieng has just been amazing. He put up 57 fantasy points on Sunday against Cleveland in 29 minutes. He had 22 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 blocks. Everybody's like, yeah, well, he's a big guy. That's what he should do. He made 4 3-pointers. I just want to set that out there. That is the 6th time in 10 games he has made 3 or 4 3-pointers.
He can play. Dieng can play.
Why was he buried on the bench so long? Damn it!
Minnesota, I guess, that is that backup. He's been under a team in his entire career, and he's been a backup center his entire career, basically. So he can play. Bottom line there. And this game's going to be a hot game. They don't have an over-under for this game yet, but I imagine it will be trending towards 230 with Memphis and Minnesota, who both really don't play defense whatsoever. So it's gonna make guys like Brandon Clark stands out to me. His price is really dropped. I know he's been struggling lately. His last 5 games, he's only averaging about 23 points, but he's his last 3 games have been really poor, but this could be a good bounce back spot at low ownership. Morant had a huge game against the Clippers, and they back-to-back didn't do too much. So he's definitely an option at 6,800. He could go for 40 in any given night. And then Jay Crowder is another guy who had a really good game against the Clippers, and he is only 5,000 still on the season. He's got a pretty solid 6 times value rate of 36% at 5,000 and 18% 7 times value rate at 4,900 or sorry 5,000. So he's definitely a guy that will be on my radar.
All right, here's one that'll blow your mind a little bit.
All right, I want to blow my mind. Let's hear it.
So for the season, Minnesota middle of the pack. They're literally 15th in defensive efficiency. That's all the games. The last 10 games, 9 of which have been without Karl Anthony Towns, they actually have been, drum roll please, they are the number 1 defense.
Wow.
Now, remember, this is contextualized. So they are allowing 100 points per 100 possessions over their last 10 games. But if you look at them for the season, let me sort on this, they are allowing 108. So they're, but their 101 number, it actually still would be equal to the Bucks. So basically they've been playing the equivalent of the Bucks level defense. Now, you go look at the teams they've played, there's a lot of crappy teams that they've gone against. So to be fair, this is a combination one of Gorgie Jang actually being pretty good at defense, and Okogie and Culver, and I make the joke, it's not like they're playing offense, but at least they're playing defense. So that one's kind of interesting. They are playing at the 10th fastest pace still during that stretch. On the season for the entire year, they're playing at the 5th fastest. So even though they're, it's one of those, we're selling them cheap, we're going to make it up on volume. It's like, yeah, they're playing better defense, but they play too fast. So the points are still racking up there. It was just an interesting thing. Because I think it's actionable information. If you see somebody in the bottom 5 or the top 5, I think that's interesting. Because otherwise, the 15, 20 teams in the middle of that, they're usually separated by about 3 possessions per game.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, your pace up spot is all relative. But if you got 2 top 10 teams playing each other or 2 bottom 10 teams playing each other, okay, that makes sense that it goes up or down. But if it's, number 20 playing number 10, kind of meet in the middle probably. So it's just one of those to think about. But back to the players in our player pool here. I think kind of as I mentioned, Napier, Jang, if Towns is out, would be the guys I'm looking at. On the other side, though, this is a good matchup for Jaren Jackson Jr., for Ja Morant, for Dylan Brooks, for Brandon Clark. You mentioned some of those guys. So I think this will be kind of our mix and match, but a little heavier from this particular game. We won't be alone on this assessment, but the thought is, and the hope is, that some of these guys are not household names. We've seen these injuries for quite some time for a lot of these players. Or their teammates, so there shouldn't be any new, this guy's out, quick, slot this guy in kind of thing. So I'm hoping that the average gamer may not be aware of this. Those that follow the sport or watching the Awesemo shows and reading other content, etc., they're going to be aware of this. But I think enough people may be off it, because it's not the household names from either side here.
Yeah, and Wiggins, you got to look at Wiggins. Wiggins' price on DraftKings is only 6,900.
Nice.
His usage, nice. That is nice. It's really nice. And his usage is his usage. I mean, if Towns is out, his usage is going to be around 30. So he's definitely a guy that I'll be targeting on DraftKings if Towns is out once again.
All right, 2 more to go. We've got Sacramento at Phoenix. Sacramento on a back-to-back. Their game is not yet tipped off as we are recording this, so this is without any additional injury information. We do know that Marvin Bagley is going to be out potentially for I've seen 1 to 2 weeks, and I've seen he's going to be reevaluated on Tuesday. So who the hell knows? They don't seem to be in any hurry to get him back, but I've seen conflicting reports on that. Haven't seen an update. And then you missed Bogdan Bogdanovich, still dealing with that kind of chronic recurrent soreness in his knee. It's nothing that is what appears to be a huge concern. it's just chronic soreness, and it's been affecting him from time to time. So my uneducated guess is loose debris kind of moving around and getting to where it gets to be uncomfortable, and I think that's why we've seen some of his better or worse games. Would it shock me if he has an arthroscopic surgery as we get closer to the All-Star break? No, not at all. But we'll just have to see what happens there. Everybody else should be healthy. De'Aaron Fox, pending the results of Monday night's game. De'Aaron Fox helps the team play at a faster pace. Buddy Hield taking the second most three-pointers in the league behind James Harden. So I like those guys. We'll just have to see what happens here. But they're kind of going to be on my core short list. Phoenix been playing a little bit better defense with Ricky Rubio around. They do have the return of DeAndre Ayton, and that has relegated Dario Saric to the bench, actually, and kind of falling out of the rotation because the last couple of games they've started Aaron Baines at power forward, which is a unique development. So make sure, if depending on the site you're playing, some of them have now given him power forward eligibility since he does have a couple starts there. What are you thinking here with the Phoenix side of things?
Yeah, so Phoenix, these prices on DraftKings are ridiculous. You've got 4 guys over 7,000. Aiden 8,200, Booker's 8,800. He's been on fire. Oubre has really turned into a really good player at 7,300, and Rubio is now the cheapest of the big four at 7,100. And on the other side of Sacramento, the prices are pretty sky high too. You know, you were expecting Bogdanovich and Bagley to be out, and then you've got Fox and Hield are both over 7,000. Hield 7,000, De'Aaron Fox 7,700, and then Rashawn Holmes and Harrison Barnes rounded out. I like Bielika there at 5,300. As long as Bagley's out again, he really does a great job, and he can pop off. It's one of his cheaper prices in the starting lineup. Phoenix is pretty vulnerable to front court opposition, so I'll be looking at Bielika. But overall, this game, I know it has a 226.5 over under. That seems pretty high to me, considering Sacramento does not play at the pace we're used to the Kings playing at. I also want to mention there were some talks that Vlade could send Bogdan Bogdanovich over for Kuzma. There's been talks of that.
Really?
So, yeah, I saw that in someone. And I'm a big Bogdan Bogdanovich fan.
Yeah, I mean, last year he was just so good in filling in. He can kind of play that role where he can play the 1, 2, or 3 competently. Mm-hmm. He's a decent defender. He's got a nice outside shot. He generally doesn't, turn the ball over a lot, etc. It's just he's just been has that chronic injury or a nagging injury that's just really cost him. I loved him coming off the bench, and then even when he moved into a starting role last year, he was very, very productive. But
yeah,
this has just been a mess. I would like him over Kuzma personally.
So
going with that, but
so since I'm not going to say Fox is the reason for this, but since Fox has come back, I mean, their record with De'Aaron Fox this year is they've won about 4 games this season with De'Aaron Fox. That's it. And he's played it. Yeah.
Well, they're 1-9 in their last 10. I've got.
They're 1-9 in the last 10. Fox has been back for about 10 games.
Yeah.
And they started off the season. Fox played about the first 10 games, and they won 3 of them. So when Bogdanovich was playing more, when Bielika was playing more, was really when they were playing their best basketball. So from a real basketball standpoint, Fox is not fitting this team very well. This slower-paced Kings team, it's not working out.
So their last 10 games, Phoenix has the worst defensive rating in the league. Sacramento has the 10th worst. They're giving up 116 and 113 points per 100, respectively. Pace-wise, they're both kind of middle of the pack. Eyeballing it.
I could go for some guys on Sacramento here. Bielika, like I said, and De'Aaron Fox. Granted, I don't think he's a good fit for this team. He definitely is really appealing at 7,700. He has obviously the 50-point potential you're looking for out of a $7,000 to $8,000 player. Buddy Hield at $7,000 is a little much for me on DraftKings, so I would look for Bielika and De'Aaron Fox. Booker's been on fire. He's been absolutely incredible. He has not scored under 40 points since December 23rd. That's a span of 6 games. So he has been on. And maybe you just keep on riding the hot hand until it gets to be, wow, his price is way too high. So Booker is definitely a consideration at 8,800. I don't think he's at the point where you're like, he's going to break the bank, and you're like, no way I'm doing this. So he's Booker, Bielika, De'Aaron Fox. Other than that, I don't see much.
All right, so this will be the fourth time these teams have played. The first game was the Suns 124-95. Second game was the Kings 120-116, and the third game was the Suns 112-110. So outside of that blowout, first, the other two games were separated by a combined 6 points. So this is they played each other close. All the games have, on average, have let's see, doing the math, looks like about a 225 average per game between those three of them. Yeah, so this will be pretty interesting. Oubre's had good success in all three that he's played. De'Aaron Fox has only played in one. It was a dud. Rubio's played in all three. He's averaging 31 DK points per game on 11 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds. So that's not the worst. Holmes, someone I'm kind of interested in. Now remember, 2 of these games came without DeAndre Ayton, but Holmes has not been good in this one, and this feels like a matchup where he should actually thrive in. But he's averaged 29 minutes and 25 points, fantasy points in these. Buddy Hield is a guy I look to a lot. He's averaging 32.2 minutes with 32.8 fantasy points, right in line with his season average. That guy is like Mr. Steady Eddie when it comes to fantasy points. But those are the core guys we'd want to look at. Heading on into our final game of the night, we have the Lakers, we have the Knicks. You've got the Lakers home favorites by 13 points. We've got a 220 over under here. LeBron always in play. Anthony Davis had an outstanding little run here recently. He put up 65 fantasy points against Detroit on Sunday, 73 against New Orleans. He put up 46 points, 13 rebounds against New Orleans. Against Detroit, he had 8 blocks. As a team, the Lakers had they had the first time, I forget what it was, like in 25 years, where they had anybody in the NBA had more than 20 blocks in a game. But they had JaVale and Howard both had season highs, and then Davis had 8.
Yeah, Sequoia Doumbaya should never go to the rim again. I watched that game. So he was blocked like 7 times. I'm like, dude, stop it. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it was. I was just keeping an eye on that box score, and I swear every time I looked, it's like, wait, they have more blocks. They have more. I didn't realize it was a record, but it's just like, damn. Like when you look at your phone and you watch the ESPN GameCast, and it tells you the ending of each play, like so and so missed a running jumper, and so got blocked by this person. It was like, yeah, right. God, there's been a lot of blocks in this one.
Yeah, it was not an exaggeration. It was like watching the game. I was like, wow, there are more block shots than I think I've ever seen in a game. So it was, and I didn't know how many they had. And it turned out that it was right there. And it was the Caruso too. That was Caruso. And that was great to see. He tried to dunk on Drummond, which should be one of the highlights of the season. And Drummond just rejected him. But love Alex Caruso. Our boss, Alex Caruso. That's our guy, right?
That's right. Caruso. But we've got a few tags here. So we've got Davis coming in. He's probable. Now, he hasn't missed a game where he's been listed probable yet. So we like that. Marcus Morris Sr. Is probable. He's got a sore neck. He had a phenomenal game in his last outing against the Clippers. The Knicks lost by 3 to the Clippers, who had lost the night before to Memphis, like 140-116. So I don't know what's going on with the Clippers there, but Morris coming off a phenomenal game with 38 points, 5 boards, 1 assist there, had 50 fantasy points. You've got Alfred Payton, who was questionable personal. He had the birth of a daughter here, so he made the game in Phoenix, but may be back. How we don't have this now, again, no issues of anybody taking paternity leave, maternity leave, all of that. Absolutely be with your family. Zero issues with that whatsoever. In fact, I think that as being in HR myself and being in that world, I don't think we do enough in the U.S. to handle that massive change that happens in people's lives. But how do we not know where he is? And the news that was coming out of, well, he can't make it from New York to here or wherever his family is. And then it was, okay, he's on a plane, but they may not make it. And then it's like, all right, he's at the arena and starting. It was like, how did we go from him probably being out at lock to 2 hours later he's in the starting? Wherever he was at least 2 hours away. So it's just little news like that. The Derrick Rose not being in the stadium when he was playing with New York and got mad, got on a plane and went back to Chicago, and not one beat writer pointed it out that, oh yeah, he wasn't in the layup line, I guess. It's just like, in the day of Instagram and the Twitter and all that fun, it kind of boggles my mind. Do we need to know? No, I guess not. I mean, it's a very fair out for personal. Out for
DraftKings people. We need to know.
But come on.
We need to know. We're DraftKings people.
Yeah, there we are. In any event, I suspect he will be there. Now, the one guy that is a little bit dinged out is Avery Bradley. So he's been dealing with the sore ankle after rolling it, and he went out early on Sunday. He only played 12 minutes.
It was a bad sprain. He's not going to play.
I don't think he's going to play, but just know that there could be some moving parts here. But let's just kind of assume Bradley's out. Let's assume one of the point guards is out for the Knicks. What do you like here? You know, are we thinking LeBron and those guys can stay close? Is that if they can stay close enough with will LeBron and Davis get their full complement of minutes, etc.? What are any concerns you have?
The blowout
and the blowout. The Lakers don't play again until Friday. For what that's worth.
Blowout's a very big concern. The Knicks were actually undefeated for a day this decade. They were. And now they lost to the Suns, and they're going to get smacked by the Lakers. So the blowout's a concern. If LeBron and AD don't get their full complement of minutes, it will be a problem for both of them to have monster games. One of them could still very well have a monster game, but I don't think in a blowout situation, would probably have to go back through the game logs to see how they've done in blowout situations, but I would suspect LeBron at 11,200 on DraftKings would not be somebody. I would need him to play a full complement of minutes. So considering the amount of blowout potential this game has, I would be extremely concerned. The guy I'm looking at, I mean, if you really want to play game scenarios, and I think there's a very good chance that this game could be considered a blowout, Bobby Portis, 3,900 on DraftKings. I was just looking at his game log. He's actually played a lot more minutes when the game isn't close. We had a blowout against Portland where he had 27 DraftKings points. We had a blowout recently against Miami where he had 51 DraftKings points. A blowout against Atlanta that they won actually was that's a blowout win. I won't touch that one. Another blowout against Portland where he had 28.5 DraftKings points. So his big games have really come in blowouts. So it's definitely worth a look there. Marcus Morris has been playing great, but if he doesn't get, I'm going to approach this game if you can't tell already, like it's going to be a blowout. So,
no, and that makes sense. And I was just kind of looking here, like on Sunday I played. There was only 4 games on DK3 on FanDuel. I played a fair amount of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Because I thought, all right, if they're going to be out or if there's going to be blowout, and there turned out to be a lot closer game than we were expecting. But he was the guy I liked in this one. I'm okay with him. I think Alex Caruso, in all honesty, even without Avery Bradley, if he's going to get the run over Rondo, I would think towards the end of the game. Rondo really needs LeBron to kind of not be around to achieve his value. I mean, he can have Rondo, poor man's triple-double at any time, and he does about once a month. But when we don't expect it, but there's nothing here that would lead me to expect that he's going to have a moment. Danny Green would be someone that I don't mind for a little bit of salary relief, but you're hoping he's going to drop some threes to get to his value, and then you can roll the dice with one of the centers. I kind of lean towards JaVale in this one. I would have leaned towards JaVale against Drummond, but it ended up being, well, I guess they both ended up with the blocks, ended up having decent games. I'm sorry, it would have gone with Howard, but they both had decent games. Tuesday night, I think it's going to be JaVale. On the other side, for me, I'm looking at Julius Randle. Hey, he's a Laker. You've got his 4 games that he played, against the Lakers last season. I didn't look to see if LeBron was in all of them, but 28, 51, 36, and 34 fantasy points. That's not overly exciting, but remember, the two best players who are good defenders play his position with LeBron and with Davis. So this is not going to be an easy matchup for him. It's not going to be easy for Robinson going against JaVale or Howard. So this is, anytime you're going against the Lakers, it's a tough matchup because they have excellent defenders just up and down their line. And even their bench are good defenders. Last year they built a team of crazy people. This year they've actually built a team of defenders.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of Lakers basketball this year, and their defense is pretty incredible. I watched the Suns game the other night, and they just lock them down to it was 73-43 or something like that at halftime. It was something ridiculous.
Yeah, and the reason why I say good defense is they'll hold teams to 20 points in a quarter, 3 of the quarters, and it's like, crap, we barely got to 95 or regular points. That's significantly less fantasy production available in those games than there are when the teams are hitting 110 or 105, 110, 115. It's a dramatic difference. So that's where we say, hey, these guys are good defenders. It's not just whomever they're facing, they're just less opportunities across the board for the entire team.
Yeah. And I do want to hit on one guy we didn't actually mention. I will say Caruso. I do like if Avery Bradley's out. Mm-hmm. So, Rondo's been a really bad basketball player this season, a very bad basketball player. So I think that's when you take real life basketball into consideration that Rondo's minutes have been trending down. If this is a blowout, Caruso's going to probably get the minutes because he's the fan favorite at home. I know that coaches don't do that stuff, but it's the Knicks. And Caruso, he can play. Caruso can play. He's a good player. And the other guy in the Knicks that I would be looking at is Reggie Bullock. If you're really looking to go cheap, he got 25 minutes last game. And if this game turns ugly, then he should see. I don't know if he got the start last game. I'm going to confirm if he got the start. No, he did not start. But he could very well see minutes in the mid-20s. Again, I think he's from LA as well, maybe. So he's a guy, if you're really, really trying to dig deep and need a cheap guy at 31.
Oh, man. Last 4 games, though, DNPs.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
No, I thought it's
I'm sorry. You're absolutely correct. I hit the scroll button and I went to last year. My bad. So he returned on January 1st for his first game this year.
Yeah, he returned on January 1st and he played got
15, 19, 25 minutes. So no, that's a very good call out right there. There's some extreme.
I like that goal. So
I just roll back. I'm like, uh-oh. I better bring this up lightly. No, Emac, you're the one with egg on your face.
No, that's. I would have thought Reggie Bullock was a DMP. Did a DMP all season. So yeah. especially if Dennis Smith's out again, Payton's going to be out. Who knows what he's going to do? But Reggie Bullock. Why not? Maybe in a showdown. If you're playing showdown, there's a sneaky play right there. Oh, Reggie Bullock.
That's actually not a bad idea. All right, let's look real quick here at some Yahoo $10 ballers, and then we will get on out of here. We've got Doumbia, as we mentioned. He is 11. He's small forward. I think that's solid. Terrence Davis, if he gets the start, he's $10. You hope he gets 20 fantasy points there for Fred VanVleet. $11 Kyle Kuzma. I don't mind that. They're continuing. He in my opinion won't lose minutes in the blowout run because they're trying to get him healthy and back and playing with the team and up to speed and yada yada yada. So I'm comfortable with him not losing his minutes, especially because the team's not playing again for a few days. So I think he should see 28 to 30 minutes. Dante Exum, you're asking for lightning in a bottle. He had a career game. This is a guy who's been in the league for 5 years, might even be 6 years, and has really done nothing after he was a highly regarded draft pick. Darius Garland, I'm actually interested in somewhat going against Detroit at 11. I think that's a favorable spot for him. He should see something in the low to mid 30s for minutes. So that's a decent one. Christian Wood, I said I really don't like him. I really don't like him for $15. Don't go there. He just has too much DFS hype right now. He has played for 4 teams over the last 5 seasons. That middle season, he spent the entire year in the developmental. He's a fantasy point per minute guy who doesn't get minute. Oh, by the way, Blake Griffin may have season-ending surgery. Still doesn't excite me for Christian.
I don't get the hype around him at all. Yeah. It's over for me. I mean, maybe that's the time to pick him when it's over for me. I'm done with him. So.
Yeah. But there are some guys. So we've got some good placeholder value. Reminder, if you have not yet signed up for Yahoo, of course you can. If you go to the bottom of any of the Cash Game Building Block articles, which is a daily series, bottom section talks about the link, promo code, and instructions on how you can get $30 with your initial deposit bonus over there on Yahoo Fantasy Sports. I also have a little section in there. We talk about good value, primetime player, risky value, and then I've started putting in a little Yahoo discount dandy section just to call out the guys, because not all $10 players are created equal. You will hear me say that time and time again, but there are some that are much better than the others, and sometimes you want to go up to $11 or $12 and you'll find some decent diamonds in the rough, in addition to the guys that we just mentioned. But we are going to get on out of here. You can follow Joey over on what for Twitter?
Leave it to Divac. LEAVEIT #2 Divac. I love the handle, but it's really hard for people to follow when I have to like spell it out for them.
Well, it's good. It's like leave it to Beaver, but leave it to Divac. Vlades.
With the #2. Leave it to Beaver, but leave it to Divac. #2, not 2.
#2. I had nobody even knows leave it to Beaver. Right? Very sad. All right, gamers. With that, I'm gonna go take off my Air Monarchs. I'm gonna yell at somebody that's on my lawn. With that, gamers, good luck.